Let's get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our preview for the 2023 Buccaneers. Man, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like Lucille Bluth. Like, I don't understand the question. I won't respond to it. Like that's how I feel about the Bucs a little bit. I know that's bad. That's just kind of how I feel about this year's Bucs team.
Tom Brady coming through the door like Dean Parmesan. What's his phrase? Is it Dean Parmesan? Oh, Gene Parmesan. I knew the sound.
I don't. What are the Bucs? I don't understand the question, and I won't respond to it. I truly don't know what this team is trying to do, and I don't mean that to like shit on them. It was always going to be so ugly. Plate or platter was the question that she was asked at the restaurant. Plate or platter? You're asking me, the Bucs, plate or platter? I don't understand the question, and I won't respond to it. It was always going to be ugly post-Brady.
Yeah.
What they did and all of the money that they moved around and kind of the sacrifices that they made, it was always going to be ugly post-Brady. Mm-hmm. But now it's like, okay, you re-signed Jamel Dean. You had to tear down the offensive line because it was too expensive. You needed to save some money somewhere. So now that's going to be worse. You still have the receivers, but Mike Evans is going to be a free agent after this year, and Lavonte David's going to be a free agent after this year. So is the goal to be competitive this year? And then maybe next year, if you can kind of land the quarterback, you can hit the ground running and thread the needle that way. But you have some of those pieces that are still going to be expensive and not on the roster. I just don't know. And it was always going to be messy and naughty, but I think it just feels even messier and naughtier than I would have anticipated because they didn't take a dramatic step back.
Yes. It was messy because they didn't nuke it. Sorry to interrupt, but that's where I feel too.
No, I appreciate you interrupting because I'm just like talking myself in a circle because I don't know what the hell to make of the last
my notes
12 year of this, the last 12 months calendar year of this team.
We start, I kind of, what's the story with this team for our notes? And all I wrote was no more Tom. And then that I just didn't know what else to answer. I was like, I don't know with this team because there are good and notable players, but I thought when Tom Brady left, it was like nuke it. Just all right, figure out what we can sell, strip it for whole part, or strip it for spare parts. Okay, we get a second rounder for that guy, a fifth rounder for that guy, and okay, maybe we have to eat some cap.
But it's hard to do that because they paid Carlton Davis, they paid Vita Vea.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, well, what do you do with this team? And honestly, the way that they're built, if you look at the price tags for each guy, they've got a lot of guys next season that are like 20 million, 23 million, 25 million, Godwin, Vea, Carlton Davis, all those guys in that range. It reminds me a little bit of how the Chargers and the Dolphins are built, but they don't have as many cheap young players and cheap young talents. The Chargers, they don't have the quarterback, right? So it's the Chargers without the quarterback, or it's the Dolphins without some of the cheaper underlying talent. Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Jalen Waddle. The Bucs haven't drafted like that over the last couple of years.
Nope.
So you have the aggressiveness attached to teams like that, but no reason to have been aggressive. And again, that's just the dust has settled ending that comes with with Brady. That's it.
Yeah. And it's just such a weird team to like look at this team and see like, oh, okay, that guy, Tristan Wirf's still on this team. Oh, okay, they still got Lavonte David. Oh, wow, look at that. Mike Evans is still there. And you just don't feel good. Like you still feel like, wow, this is just a weirdly bad team. And just because that's how much quarterback does for you and just like stripping offensive line.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Just the stripping offensive
Listen
line
to what the team tells you.
Yes. Right.
Like when they sign Baker Mayfield and it is a Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask quarterback competition, I'm just going to listen to what the team is saying to me about what kind of season they want to have.
Right. They didn't take a seat on the carousel, the QB carousel, the QB musical chairs. They're like, oh no, they did, but they went with Baker. They went off to the side. Like they're kind of like they got the little discount chair off the side. But it's even like there, it's like I don't know. I have a little frustration. Like, why didn't they go like for like Jacoby Brissett or something like that? Someone that was like actually good last year. Like Baker was he's a weird stage in his career. So it's just, I don't know. I like what you said. Listen to what the team's telling you. It's like, this is what they're going with the quarterback. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Let's see how 2023 looks in Tampa Bay. Did you just lose your light in there?
Lost my lights. My lights only had so much juice. The lights aren't made for 90-minute podcasts.
We talk about the Bucs and the lights went off.
That's all you need to know.
That was a metaphor right there.
So the biggest question about the offense, just kind of what are the realistic expectations for this group with Baker Mayfield and a first-year offensive coordinator? They brought in Dave Canellis, who was the Seahawks quarterbacks coach last year.
Yep.
And again, it's just, okay, so you drop Baker Mayfield into the 2021 Bucs offense, let's say. You have a really good offensive line. You got all these pass catchers. You feel like you can kind of get rolling a little bit. You put them in a really good situation. But that's not the reality.
No.
They are moving Tristan Wirfs to left tackle. He's already talked about how much anxiety he has about this. Just keep him there. Keep him there. I just don't understand this.
He's actually losing sleep.
It's 2023. Like, the gap between left and right tackles does not exist in the same way it did 10, 15 years ago. Just keep the guy at the position where he's an all-pro level player. Look at Lane Johnson's career. It's gone great. Just keep him there. Didn't understand it. So now you move Luke Gadecki, who was bad last year, to right tackle. You get worse probably at two positions.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Filer, who was cut by the Chargers, who struggled along the offensive line last year, is now your starting left guard. Mm-hmm. And Ryan Jensen, who tore 3 ligaments in his knee last year during training camp, is not practicing yet.
But other than that,
you
know, a quarterback falls apart with pressure.
That's exactly right. Maybe with some quarterbacks, you think, we got a guy that can mitigate this a little bit and move around a little bit. Baker Mayfield has led the league in pressure to sack percentage. The amount of pressures that led to sacks, he's led the league in each of the last 2 years.
His play style compounds all pressure in a bad way because he has the habits he's never broken. He works backwards from the pocket.
Opposite of Tom Brady.
It couldn't be more opposite. Works back. He makes so many bad plays worse. Like that's Baker's MO, because he, for whatever reason, he thinks he runs a 4.6, and he just he tries to juke a guy and he ends up like falling out of balance. It's just not an offensive kind of like personnel that I'm like, oh yeah, I can. Maybe Canales can kind of mitigate some of it with bootlegs and all that play action.
Sure, we're going to see a lot of that. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of play action.
But this offense is built. Like, look who they've paid. Look at their receivers: Godwin, Evans, and even Russell Gage, who's been hurt since they've signed him. But they gave him a decent contract too. This team is built to throw to their 3 freaking receivers, and so that's dropping back. What did you say about the play action stuff? The stats you're talking about, only, usually there's 7 guys protecting. Usually only 2 guys are out in the route, and then you have a check down.
It limits the scope. It limits it. We keep coming back to it.
So limits it's kind of
with these receivers. You want to open up the scope because the receivers are the best thing about the offense.
Get them on islands and let them go. Yep, that's why you pay them.
So it is a weird hodgepodge. I just don't know what to expect of it. And the offensive line issues lead me to have a lot of consternation about what this could look like, even if you are still excited about the pass catchers at this stage.
But it's just such a weird mishmash of like players. Like if Ryan Jensen came back and was like, okay, here we go, he's healthy, he's playing, okay, he's near 100%, makes you feel a lot better about whoever the quarterback is. But the fact that he's not even practicing with Baker, who's new, or Kyle Trask, who has never played real snaps. Like,
I think he's just not doing full contact, right?
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I think that's just, but I think he might be around, but he's not fully healthy yet. So I think that's important.
It's just rough. And even I like Rachaad White, the running back, but it's just like, it's not like it's going to be great for him because the blocking might be iffy too. So it's just a weird unit. It really is, which was just so recently such a top tier unit. It's just, man, it comes fast. Not for long, man. NFL.
Biggest question about the defense.
I mean, like more of the same. Like just what is there? What is the question? What is this like? Is this a top unit? Is this a unit that can carry the team? Like, I mean, that's really where we're at. Like, what do they want out of this unit? Do you guys want to be are you considering this unit like somewhere we're building around the next 2-3 years? Like, I don't know. Can they get more sacks as kind of their pass rushers have aged out? Can they get more of those needle movers in the up front? Can they get Devin White back to what he looked like in his Super Bowl year? Can some of these guys that they were big fans of before get back to that level? Can Vita Vea stay healthy? It's just question marks about, can the big players play big? And can we get something out of some of these young guys? That's really what I look at. Because I think scheme-wise, it's going to be the exact same that we've seen out of Todd Bowles his entire career. So really, it's just what are the answers we get personnel-wise? Where are some of the guys that are they going to build around in the future? Can they identify those? Can they get something out of it?
is this group still talented enough to keep this team competitive consistently?
Yeah.
That's where I would land. And they were 29th in pressure rate when blitzing last year. That is to me the number one question, because they still have pieces in the secondary. Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis. We'll see what happens at the nickel. We'll talk about that. But Antoine Winfield's a decent player. Ryan Neal, Antoine Winfield's more than decent. I like Antoine Winfield.
He's good.
They signed Ryan Neal in free agency. I thought Ryan Neal had some really good moments for the Seahawks last year. Yes. So they're starting 4 DBs, and we'll talk about the nickel corner in a second. That's a good group. Levante David is still a very good player. Yes. The front is what did them in last year. Shaq Barrett missed half the year. Logan Hall was not productive as a rookie, and they spent resources on this. They drafted Kalijah Cansey in the first round. They drafted Yaya Diaby in the 3rd round. Mm-hmm. They want an injection up front. If they can be better and healthier in that group, I think this can be a top half of the league defense, maybe even better, and keep them in games. But I think that is the biggest question, is can they get more impact and more juice out of that front this year?
Yeah. Juice. Yeah. I think juice up front is the number one thing they're trying to figure out. I'll talk about Joe Tryon in a sec, but I think just with even just like Levante David's still damn good. It's funny. I watched it. I was like, he took a step back last year. And I watched one of their late season games. Like, nope, still good. Still a good player. Still sound. Still a good tackler. Still good at everything. I'm glad you gave Winfield a shout out. He's another guy that I believe is about to be going in his contract year, 2021. Yep. Another contract year guy. God, it's just, that's the problem when you hit guy after guy. You have to pay a guy every single year. That's how their DB room is.
It's really difficult to do that over and over and over again. And when I say they haven't had that underlying drafted talent over the last couple of years, that's okay, because they had a ridiculous run for like 5 years where you're hitting on the Deans and the
remember
Davises,
we did the GM show
and the Wirfses.
And we were like, we gotta give him a bump because he keeps nailing drafts. I think we did it like 2 years ago, but that was it, because they just get fine or better players over and over and over. Like every draft, they were finding a guy.
All right, X factor for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who you got?
I said Baker Trask. Whoever.
My answer was whoever the quarterback is.
That's it. I mean, I don't think that's an exotic answer for anybody. I think that's exactly where it has to be. That's where this team goes, is where that quarterback's going to go.
Who'd you have as your breakout candidate for the Bucs? This was not hard, not easy for me.
I wanted to say Rachaad White, but I went with Joe Tryon. I liked him a little bit. He was a first round pick. I thought he would be kind of more of a super role player in the league. I still kind of think he might just be that, but he's just getting better. He's only had 8 sacks the last couple of years, but some underlying numbers point to a more of an ascending player. He had the same pressure rate as TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith last year, and he was a tad better than Shaq Barrett. He was better than Robert Quinn, Yannick Ngakoue, Kwity Paye, some other guys that we're optimistic about. So he's already has some production there, some underlying numbers. He's pretty good against the run. So I think ideally he'll be like a kind of a super number 2 in this league, or a good number 2. I shouldn't say super, but a good number 2 in this league as a number 2 DN, pass rusher, edge type. So I think he's just going to keep ascending into that role. But that's really all I got. All the other players are kind of
about more juice up front. That's really important. Yeah. I had a random one. I had Zion McCollum, who was a 5th round pick that got some run for them last year. He's in that nickel battle. There's a bunch of different guys, D. Delaney fighting for that job. Again, hard to kind of land on somebody in that group.
I know.
What does success look like for the Bucs? I truly don't know.
I don't either. I said figure out what they're doing with their QB and as a team in general. That's it.
You hit on some of those younger players, those younger, cheaper players potentially. And then if you drop the right quarterback in next year, again, you can thread that needle and just get on without ever slowing down. It's tough to do that. But I think that making sure that you're kind of assembling more building blocks among those drafted players than you have over the last couple of years is important. But it's a weird year. It's a weird year. It's a weird team. I don't think there's anything else to say about that. All right.
It's a transition that I thought would be a little more clean because it was so nukey as opposed to clean. That's like, oh yeah, we know Tom Brady's. Yeah. I thought it would be a little cleaner rip of the Band-Aid, but instead it's like, oh, they got it halfway off and they're like, oh, it hurt. It's like, no, you got to get it all the way off. That's kind of what the Bucs feel like right now.